France from Vientiane. It's a really beautiful city. Unfortunately, there are not so many people who wish to come, was not actually able to attend in person, but yeah, we shared nice online discussion, so hybrid. Yes, more than 50 persons participated. Thank you very much. So the last week, we just proposed of the special index, corporate human security index. It's even from the Asian perspective, because of the business human rights should be more focused on the empowerment with the local vulnerable peoples. So the company which making efforts to empower these peoples should be also evaluated positively. It's not the negative rating, but also some positive rating for in this kind of efforts. We should be fairly evaluated. Otherwise, just the market cannot be also not beneficial for the peoples. Inclusion is also important agenda for the business and human rights. So this proposal was also shared by some other jurisdictions such as Korea, Nepal, Malaysia, and some other Asian countries, Thailand. Some kind of discussions made, especially the FILQ made a very critical comment. It's very useful for us to review it because what is the Asian context? Asian is not so well unilaterally identified, just kind of a very much diverse inside. Of course, that's why we just propose for the Asia from our from Japanese point of view and Korean point of view, Asian, Malaysian, different context we should share, then just exchange. So this project index is not already fixed one, but there are other open end. We invite more field work, feedback to improve, to make our sort of agenda and index to us to. So that is a such kind of social experimental approach, in fact. Basically, my name is Yasunobu Sato, a professor of University of Tokyo, and my respected hero or heroine is Akiko Sato, who is now in Bangkok, to actually working for business human rights in Asia. Actually, just finished the Asian Forum. So she couldn't make it because of this preparation, because she's now a liaison officer of the UNDP. Instead of the article, just we had also very excellent speaker from Japan. It's a Mr. Sakon, the Kuramoto-san, is a lawyer, especially of our colleague with the business human rights in Japan, and he just take initiative to create some grievance mechanisms of business human rights access remedy. That is Japanese recent initiative, Japan Center for the Engagement and the Remedy and Business Human Rights. So he will just introduce to us what is this and what is aim, what is their vision, something like that. And of course, our colleagues from Korea and Nepal and Malaysia will also their own initiative approach. So we share this kind of initiatives, and also we exchange comments and information for us to develop more collaboration, so collective collaboration for the same aim. Okay, so now we have also assistant from Japan, and I'm now accessing from my home Tokyo. The Haruki is here, and also the Erika. I don't know if she's already arrived yet. But first of all, let me share the recorded video from our friends and colleague for a long time for business and human rights is Surya Deva. Professor Surya is now in Australia, I guess, and he's too busy to participate even online. He just shared this video for us. Let me share a video with you. I hope this work. I don't know. Okay. Show you. Yes, here. Right. Okay. All right. Do you see him? Okay. Just right. Go.
Sorry, we cannot hear the sounds. When you share, can you click on the share sound before click share?
Sorry,
we cannot hear. Yes.
No. How do you share?
You want me to help to share the video?
Yeah. Can you? Sorry, it's better. So I just stop the sharing.
Hello everyone, my name is Surya Dev. I'm a professor of law at the Macquarie Law School, and it is my great pleasure to share some reflections through this video that I'm recording in Sydney. At the outset, I would like to thank Yesu for the invitation for this important event, and unfortunately I cannot join in person, so sharing some thoughts about the three issues. First of all, I would like to provide the wider context that why this discussion about access to justice is very vital in the context of what is happening around the world. Secondly, I will talk about two challenges in particular in the context of business and human rights that remain in relation to access to justice. And thirdly, I will talk briefly about the Business and Human Rights Access to Justice Lab that I have just established at the Macquarie Law School in Australia. Now, let me start with the wider context of access to justice. Now, access to justice is critical, as all of us would agree, not simply because of the reason that prevention is never foolproof. Even if governments and companies try their best to prevent adverse impacts on affected communities, it is inevitable there'll be some adverse impacts. And I think that is where importance of access to justice becomes critical. And I think the main contribution of the UN guiding principles in this particular context is that they highlight the relevance of non-judicial grievance mechanism, right? So it's not merely the role of the state, but the role of the non-state actors also become crucial in realizing access to justice. What we need to understand, though, is that the role of non-state actors is to complement what states should be doing. It's not to supplement or just to take over the role of the state, rather to provide them some kind of assistance in a complementary manner. I think that's very crucial. Access to justice issue is also critical in the context of sustainable development goals. For instance, SDG 16 is very explicit on the relevance of access to justice, because if there is no access to justice, if there is no accountability, then we can't really have societies in which there is peace and harmony and fairness is ensured. So I think those are the issues that we should keep in mind. Now, in terms of challenges to access to justice in the context of business and human rights in particular, there are many challenges. These are not new, but I would like to highlight two in particular for our consideration. One is power imbalances. There's a huge power imbalance between corporations on the one hand and the affected communities on the ground. This power imbalance could be about access to information. It could be about lack of expertise about the standards and what mechanisms are available, or this may be about financial resources. So I think those power imbalances really make it extremely difficult for these communities on the ground to seek access to justice. And unless we try to address those power imbalances in some way, I think we will not be able to address the root causes. The other challenge that I see, which is quite prominent, is the transnational nature of what is happening in the business operations. So if the corporate operations are limited to any one particular territory or jurisdiction, it becomes much easier to hold that corporation accountable. But if the corporations are operating globally and their supply chains are spread all over the world, then it is much more complex and complicated to hold such a company accountable for business-related human rights abuses. And I think being conscious of some of the challenges, I recently started, and that brings me to the third and the last point that I wish to share with you, Access to Justice Lab that I established at the Macquarie Law School in Sydney. Now, this lab will do many things, but I will highlight three elements that may be relevant, and I think that may be also an opportunity to discuss amongst us at some point of time that how can we collaborate. First of all, this BNHR Access to Justice Lab will develop some tools which are open access and which are accessible. And hopefully those tools will try to address the power imbalance that I was highlighting earlier in terms of a lack of information, in terms of lack of expertise as to where should they go in terms of access to remedy, right? Because if there are, let us say, 3 or 4 options available, how do they know which option is the best in a given case? So I think the tools that this lab is going to develop in coming years is going to hopefully address partly this power imbalance issue that I was talking about. The second thing that this lab will do is it will provide pro bono advice and assistance to affected communities. We cannot, of course, take endless number of cases, but the goal is that we'll pick up at least some concrete cases every year from Asia Pacific. And then we try to analyze the factual situation and then give concrete advice to the communities on the ground that what is their best option. And once we give that concrete advice to the communities on the ground, then they should be able to decide which option they wish to pursue. And once they tell us that this is the option they want to pursue, they agree with the recommendation, then we will try to help them in connecting with the other partners that how they can seek access to remedy. The third and the final thing that this lab wishes to do, and that is also a very ambitious thing that I have in mind, is to create a global network of these labs everywhere in the world. So even if we can start with 1 or 2 such labs in every continent, that could be a starting point, but ultimately it would be ideal if we could have such labs at each and every country and perhaps at many labs in a big jurisdiction. And that would allow us to deal with and overcome to some extent the transnational challenge that I was referring to earlier. So I think these are my remarks and sharing about this session on Access to Justice Exchange. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity, and I very much hope that there will be opportunities to discuss these issues further, either in person or virtually at some point of time. But thank you very much once again.
Well, thank you, Nana. Yeah, that's it. It's a very clear message. 3 points he just addressed. It's a very relevant, especially the practice for the lawyers, the NGOs, local and also transnational context, especially the networking. It's really crucial for this business human rights, because just national code is not so effective in such human rights abuses, very structured, so on. So power imbalance should be addressed by this sort of network So the academia is also very much responsible for the analysis of this code. Anyway, let's start this session for library array as an interactive session should be. Now, the first I'd like to invite, as I said, Sakon, Kuramoto, and also, is there Mr. Akihiro Ueda-san?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, good. Because in fact, Akihiro is also quite involved in this developing this JCDR. Maybe they are just to explain. So please, Sakon-san, could you make your floor speech with your colleague Akihiro-san? If you want to use a PowerPoint, just do that. Then
Okay,
we
thank
should
you.
have a discussion.
Thank you very much, Yasan. Okay, so let's get started. Let me share my presentation slide on the screen. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. Just a few seconds. Okay, so yeah, I'm very happy to make a presentation in this wonderful virtual place. Nice to meet you. This is Sakon Kuramoto. I'm a Japanese lawyer, co-representative of the Japan Center for Engagement and Remedy on Business and Human Rights. My friend Daisuke Takahashi is also the co-director of the Jset and the Japan Center for Engagement and Remedy on Business and Human Rights, and he is another presentation or speaker here. My name is again. My name is this is Sakon Kuramoto. I am a kind of a business lawyer supporting companies, especially the business related matters, including the compliance, M&A, and international transactions. But also, I'm a kind of ESG and the business and human rights and environment and climate change specialist. And I have been working with Daisuke and other other friends and supporters to establish this JSA. And JSA is a new progressive groundbreaking organization to support the companies to enhance their grievance mechanism based on the guiding principles. So let me give a quick introduction about the JSA. The JSA, the Japan Center for Engagement and Remedy on Business and Human Rights, has been established in June 2022, so this year. We received great support from Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and Ueda-san is the main person to support us. So he's another speaker this here. And the JSA aims to provide a platform for non-judicial grievance mechanism based on the UNGP, UN Guiding Principles, and to support and promote the grievance mechanism of our member companies, including not only including Japanese companies, but also other broad international companies. We hope. From a professional standpoint, through the operation of the engagement and remedy platform and other projects, our goals are to support and promote member companies to fulfill their responsibility to respect human rights and other ESG issues, to conduct stakeholder engagement and provide effective remedies with their rights holders. And the Jset, by accepting complaints and reports against member companies through the engagement and remedy platform that we operate, and by supporting and promoting grievance mechanisms in member companies, we will ensure the legitimacy of the grievance mechanism and improve its effectiveness and efficiency, thereby strengthening the grievance mechanism. So the Jset will have three functions for promoting engagement and remedy for companies and as well as the rights holders. The first improve effectiveness and efficiency of grievance mechanism. By operating the engagement and remedy platform, the Jset accepts claims or reports on regular member companies by our website or through member companies, and provides technical support in processing grievances, and also provides information and training programs on grievance mechanism, etc., to improve member companies' capacity. The second, ensuring the legitimacy of the grievance mechanism. In order to enhance the legitimacy of the grievance mechanism through the Jset engagement and remedy platform, we will continuously improve our operations by receiving advices from the advisory board, which consists of external experts, especially on our operations based on international norms or standards, such as the UN guiding principles, and from the stakeholder panel, which consists of civil society organizations and labor unions, representatives, etc., on how to continuously improve our grievance mechanism in terms of users' voices. The third, providing more equitable mechanism for remedy. In order, so please see the chart in this presentation material. This chart shows the grievance mechanism process in the Jset. As you can see, the claimants, including the rights holders or agents means such as the NGOs or labor unions, will submit the claims or report to the contact point at Jset's website or at the contact point in the at the grievance desk of member company. And the reports or claims will be finally submitted to the Jset, and the Jset will consider and give feedback to the member companies, and the member companies will be mainly in charge of addressing or tackling the claim for the rights holders or agents. And based on this process, we hope that the grievance mechanism for our member companies will be enhanced and much developed based on the UN guiding principles. And please see the below in this presentation material. Now, we are receiving the companies which want to join our platform, and until now about 14 Japanese companies have joined as of exactly as of the September 27th this year, and those companies are engaged in such as electronic and information technology, which 6 companies, and food and beverage and other manufacturers, which are 4 companies, and finance and insurance, which are 2 companies, mining industries company, one, and the general trading company is 1. So we are waiting for other many joining of companies. So this is my quick introduction about Jset, and we look forward to receiving broad support and working with all of you and other many stakeholders, not only in Japan but also international world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sakon-san. And Ueda-san, do you want to also make any comments or speech?
A short one.
Please.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. And it's an honor and privilege for me to be here virtually. My name is Akihiro Ueda, a program officer at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation in Japan. I'd like to make a quick remarks as a sponsor and supporter of this new grievance mechanism called Jset, which Sakon-san has just explained. So I'm actually delivering this comment not from Tokyo, but from my hotel at Bangkok. And there was, as Sato-san said, there was a UN Responsible Business and Human Rights Forum taking place here this week. And I'm visiting with Mr. Takagi, a grievance expert of Jset. The reason why I'm here shows our expectation and also concern about impact that Jset can make in terms of remedy. So I believe the establishment of this new grievance mechanism, Jset, is a big step forward. And we are, as a foundation, delighted to be part of this. As many of you would agree that access to remedy, one of the 3 pillars of the UNGP, is still quite missing in practice, not just in Japan, but all around the world. So therefore, those who I talked with during the forum in Bangkok, including like Professor Surya, who just made a video message, and the Director of Human Rights Division of the Government of Thailand, everyone highly praised this ambitious endeavor. However, they all had the same question. So will it be effective? Does it actually lead to remedy? And my answer was, it would not unless we have your support. So collaboration among stakeholders, and including experts, civil society organizations, business enterprises, and governments, not just in Japan, but also in Asia and other regions, is necessary for Jset, as well as the other grievance mechanisms to work effectively. And that's why we are here. So I just made my point. So collaboration among stakeholders is one of the prerequisites for Jset. Why? First of all, victims do not usually know if their human rights is violated or not. So they must be trained and informed of their human rights. And even if they are aware of their human rights, they don't usually know how to bring it to grievance mechanisms. So it's not just about know-how, but also about their psychological safety as well. Many of them would be hesitant to do anything because of potential reprisals. So there are many impediments even before bringing the case to Jset. And obviously, Jset cannot address all of these obstacles alone. So as a program officer of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, our focus is now shifting to this issue of collaboration among stakeholders, building some sort of scheme that enables human rights victims to reach grievance mechanisms and seek for remedy in a safe and less stressful manner. So this is still a primitive stage at the moment, but I have already received some promising ideas and proposals, including one from Professor Surya, his idea of labs. One of which is to utilize lawyers' networks in Asia, which already exist. And I assume that most of the participants in this conference are lawyers from different countries. And I hope that we can collaborate in this endeavor in the near future. I will stop here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ueda-san. It's a great message and very clear. Then just I have a very quick question. And you're now in Bangkok. Huh? So how is this going on? I hear also Japanese government is quite supporting for this conference. In fact, Ms. Akiko is actually funded by Japanese government, and also, well, Mr. Nakatani's assistant to the Prime Minister Kishida is also attended and some kind of a speech. And JETRO, Japanese sort of administrative economic industry, which is promote Japanese business, is also organized some kind of special seminar in Bangkok, I was told. So how it's addressed, and especially the access to justice matters, because this is, of course, not just for the Japanese companies. This is all the Asians or any other world, especially the local areas. The grassroots perspectives are quite important for how this kind of participation could be made, or any sort of do you have any sort of such information you can share?
Yes, Professor. Thank you so much for your question. And I was informed that more than 500 people have registered in person. So there were more than 500 people in UN and ECOSOC, and more than 2,000 people participated online. So it was actually a quite vibrant one. And I had an opportunity to meet and talk with many experts, civil society and organizations and government officials, and actually in the forum. And yes, Nakatani-san was here in person and made his presentation on the third day, which is yesterday, at the forum. And many people actually attended this session and made some questions and comments as well. Mr. Ogawa from Human Rights Now made a question about a mandatory human rights due diligence. And also the same question came from the Human Rights Resource Center as well. And Nakatani-san actually responded by himself, saying that the focus of the government at this point is to implement the guideline that they drafted from METI. Yeah, so he didn't really say anything about the mandatory human rights measures, but it was my impression that they are more committed to this project of human business and human rights than before, even though it's not probably enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eda-san. So also another quick question to the second Kuramoto-san. You just briefed this mechanism, grievance mechanism of the Jset. Sounds very interesting, but this is from the Japan, from Tokyo, in fact, and now 14, 15 Japanese companies, so also member. How is sort of outreach to the other than Japanese, non-Japanese companies, or Thai, or any sort of how the impact also to the other countries' jurisdiction, and well, how the human resource in fact, the advisory committee members, of course, some lawyers or some kind of NGOs also, multi-stakeholders also working together. So how the balance, because this is just designed for the company to be involved. So is this just for the pro company bias, just for the protection of the company's rights or benefit, or what is some sort of because of the imbalance of power is important. So how we empower the local, very much vulnerable. That is also the issues for the justice access. So in this sense, how we can just get the participation or their standpoint of view. Also, very different question, very, very complicated, as Surya said. So in this sense, we need a human resource wisdoms, not just a kind of president-oriented decisions, quite a creative more or less, not just legal, political, economical, social. These talents or the initiatives are quite important. So how you can get this kind of knowledge or resource from the future orientation? Could you just reply to us, just even brief, or then we open some discussions from other jurisdictions? Yes.
Thank you, Jset. I understand that you mentioned that the Jset will need to support or collaboration with or from not only the pure Japanese companies, but also international stakeholders, especially the ones in the Asia Pacific region. Of course, including the rights holders and the civil society organizations and other human rights defenders, including the participants in this webinar. And I understand. So that must be the big or large challenge for us. So frankly speaking, now I do not have any clear answer, but of course, I am happy to support from Jset, of course, and also other civil society organizations, and of course, as Ueda-san mentioned, of course, we are happy to collaborate with Sasaka Peace Foundation to reach out civil society organizations in Asia Pacific regions. So I also personally believe that the Jset can be practical, not only the Japanese companies but also other business society, not only in Asia Pacific region but also other regions in the world. And I hope that the Jset will be a platform for, especially for the rights holders and the people and we want to support them, give the claims or reports to business organizations for the stakeholder engagement with stakeholders and business organizations. This webinar is a kind of such opportunity, because I was happy to introduce this organization. So I'm happy to receive any feedback or advices from the participants in this webinar and discuss how to improve or develop this organization to be a more ideal organization for people.
I see. I see. So understood. This is also the one other approach of the open end, sort of inclusive, some kind of challenge also. Please, everyone, just if interested this project, maybe you can also participate in the other partner of this kind of maybe J is a Japan, but anyway, for this is not exclusive Japanese, I think, because the issue is across the border anyway. So Korean and also Malaysian, also Nepalese, these local ones should also have a network again for the platform. So this is a very interesting initiative. So may I just open up the panel discussion? Phil Q, you are, well, actually quite active human rights defenders. In fact, I met him and Bien Chan after so long time. We couldn't see, but very happy to see him. And so, you are also actually working on specific kind of incident, and Korean companies involved. So maybe you should also make some comments or your presentation regarding Korean perspective. Please also just brief your project of especially the case you are involved in. You are very busy in Vientiane for this research or your mission. Please, Phil Q, your floor, your 10 minutes. Hello.
Yeah, I share my presentation first, and then
please. Yes.
Okay. Before begin my presentation, I'd like to make some comments on the Jset.
Thank you.
I feel like I mean, I haven't intended to do so, but I feel like I'm playing a role of devil's advocate. So, I mean, we have to understand the real situation on the ground and in the field. And I mean, just think of main business and human rights cases or issues in Japan, which have not been resolved yet. And what will be the added value of Jset to those cases that haven't been resolved? There is still in dispute. And I mean, Japan and Korea has these NCPs which do not work, or other mechanisms don't work. So what will be the kind of difference between Jset and all other mechanisms that haven't been working? And so why other mechanisms are not working? I mean, so do we have this kind of evaluation to talk about Jset? And I'm really curious because in Korea, even the champions of ESG, the Global Compact or social values like SK and POSCO, whenever there is a human rights violation case, they are doing their best to get away from their responsibility and deny their responsibility. That was the case for decades. I'm not sure whether in Japan, if there is a human rights case, Japanese companies are always ready to admit that their accountability or not. But that's not the case in Korea. So what was the real value the Jset can be? That's my question or comment. And I go on with my presentation.
Yeah. So Ueda-san and Sakon will be preparing for that. Okay. Yeah, please go on.
I work with this network called KTNC Watch. It's a network of different NGOs working on human rights, labor issues, environmental issues, and we've been monitoring the operations of Korean companies overseas in various countries: China, the Philippines, Indonesia, Laos, Vietnam, and so on. And we've done a lot of research on these international standards and local laws and institutions. And recently, we have been working on this national action plan and the mandatory due diligence law and the basic law on human rights policies, which does have some component on business and human rights. So every work I have done on business and human rights is through this network. And I just talk about one case, which through this case, we've done a lot of work on, utilizing, mobilizing different tools or skills or mechanisms. So there is this case, which is very weird and very sad because I think this case is unique to Korea. There is this humidifier sterilizers disaster where hundreds of people died and thousands of people were physically harmed by toxic humidifier sterilizers because companies and the government were saying that if you make your baby healthy, you should use this sterilizer. And after all, this sterilizer has toxic elements which killed many people. So to approach this case, I mean, as a lawyer, we can think of the civil and criminal cases to begin with, but there were other mechanisms in Korea. I think other countries have similar mechanisms like Fair Trade Commission or Anti-Monopoly Commission. So we filed some cases to this Fair Trade Commission concerning unfair labeling advertising. As I mentioned, they were saying that you have to use these materials for the health of your baby. So we use this commission to push this commission to file a criminal case against companies. And there were also these other complaint mechanisms, quasi-judicial or non-judicial, Human Rights Commission or Anti-Corruption Commission or Board of Audit and Inspection. So we used all these different mechanisms within the government, non-judicial mechanisms to file cases. And also there was a special law on this specific incident concerning investigation and remedies. So it's been a kind of a great campaign with victims, civil societies and lawyers and academics to push forward to enactment of these special acts, and a special committee on investigation was formed and special committee on the kind of remedies were formed. So all this work have been done by different actors within civil society and within academics and practitioners. And also there was a campaign against the companies by victim families and civil society, and there were negotiations for compensation. Some of this negotiation is still going on among companies and victim families. Well, this is kind of domestic approach. And we can also think of some cross-border approach or cross-border elements. We can think of submitting some complaints to UN special procedures. So there was this UN working group on business and human rights and the special rapporteur on toxic elements. They had these official visits to Korea and came up with some official reports. And they also handled some individual communications, sending out questionnaires or communications to the government and related companies. And also, when you talk about domestic criminal cases, sometimes because this kind of incident involves transnational corporations, it had some kind of cross-border elements concerning extradition or mutual judicial assistance in criminal matters. So there were, company people in Singapore, in India, in UK. So we pushed the public prosecutors to make full use of these different cross-border kind of elements within the criminal procedures. And there were attempts to file civil cases against a mother company in the UK, and the affiliate was in Korea, and the main mother company was in the UK. So we tried to file civil cases in the UK because we thought it's desirable to make full use of discovery procedures and punitive damages, which Korea doesn't have. And concerning some corruption involved, some Seoul National University professor, some university professors, they had this some tests and they kind of tried to hide some the results of tests, things like that, receiving some money from the companies. So we also explored a way to file cases to the UK Serious Fraud Office under the Anti-Bribery Act. As you probably know, I mean, in the UK and in the United States, they have this law on corruption, which has extraterritorial jurisdiction. So we try to utilize this kind of mechanism. And also we filed, because the Norwegian pension fund is one of the major shareholders of the companies involved. We filed a complaint to the Committee of Ethics within the Norwegian pension fund. As far as I know, this Committee of Ethics, if they decide on they decide on recommendation to the pension fund board of directors to withdraw some kind of investment, the board of directors within the pension fund will respect this recommendation. Even though, I mean, the results of this all these different filings have not been that successful. I mean, there are so many kind of ways of addressing this kind of case. That's what I'm trying to say. And whenever I talk about these different remedies, different mechanisms, people are saying, how on earth do you people can know about all these different mechanisms and remedies? And I tell them, you heard them now, and from now on you can use all these different mechanisms in the future. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very interesting case. I have a quick question to you, Spilgut. The Norwegian pension fund you filed, where is this lawsuit against or
no, it's a non-judicial mechanism they have. They receive kind of complaints or letters.
I see.
This Committee of Ethics, they receive letters and they will review the case and will make recommendations to the board of directors.
Okay, so then negotiation, but not yet successful for any kind of impact to just getting compensation by the company. So any sort of results of this filing, because this is also relevant to the business and human rights, because supply chain and some kind of financial companies' responsibility for the human rights. So how this access to remedy was actually realized in this case, we are very interested your approach. So I mean, it's still not
domestic procedures have been successful. Yeah. But the procedures concerning the Norwegian pension fund and the Serious Fraud Act, Fraud Office, the filing wasn't that successful. So I thought there was a strong need for kind of international kind of cooperation with some civil societies in Norway or in the UK, but at that time we didn't have that kind of connection.
I see. Yeah, I think Norway or UK is always sensitive of this kind of I think human rights abuse, especially the chemical resource. It's very not just for the Korean issues. This is a global issues, of course, because anyone to be victims of. Well, okay. So good case study. Thank you very much. So Daisuke, please also just if possible, just answer some your view regarding again the Philip's critical comments on the Jset or any sort of a kind of value, especially the Japanese context. Also, please, also your presentation.
Thank you. Like Philip, especially very kind of have addressing some critical question. Like, let me also answer partly some questions. So, but probably it's also very difficult to perfectly answer. But anyway, let me upload my slide and then also explain while answering the question. So, for me, I'll also give a comment also from the the corporate human security index and relationship between corporate human rights security index and also this JSA or business and human rights situation in Asia. So especially I'm now officer of the Business and Human Rights Lawyer Network Japan, and then I'm also kind of as Sakon also explained, I'm also supporting the establishment and also operation of the JSA. But at the same time, I'm also doing some implementing some project with the Professor Professor Sato, especially about corporate human rights, corporate human security index. So I try to really kind of elaborate how this corporate human security and also this access to remedy are interrelated. So and then first of all, addressing, especially I try to answer the PQ's question, especially still in Japan, many business and human rights kind of any issue and also problem and also some dispute has been left behind, and then still and then as PQ also suggested, I also agree the OECD national contact point in Japanese government is not effective. So so even now, even if we establish this JSA as a private, especially the non-state, non-judicial grievance mechanism, how this will change. So probably this answer is really kind of reasonable. This question is really reasonable, but still in my impression, my observation as a kind of practitioner in legal practitioner in Japan, I have seen many changes within Japanese government and also Japanese company for really very recently. That as Akihiro suggested, now Japanese kind of assist kind of advisor to the prime minister also joins the conference in Thailand and then addressing some Japanese policy, and the Japanese companies also really many Japanese companies have started adapting human rights policy and also human rights due diligence, implementing human rights due diligence. So let me explain the background is especially sorry. Yeah, so my understanding is the background of the change of the Japanese company and Japanese government, especially due to the pressure from the European and American, North American, especially mandatory regulation. So UN, not needed to say, UN guiding principle on business human rights as company to implement human rights due diligence. And then an important point for the human rights due diligence is that UNGP encourage business address adverse impact not only through their own business operation, but through supply chain and other business relationship. And then triggered by the UNGP regulation to mandate human rights due diligence through the supply chain have been introduced in Europe and the US. This also many people would know this supply chain related human rights due diligence regulation includes the UK Modern Slavery Act or French vigilance law, or recently a draft proposal of EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. And then, but anyway, these regulation, European or American regulation, but still Japanese company, Japanese business has been really affected by these regulations because supply chain due diligence regulation have extraterritorial impact also on Asian business through supply chain and investment chain. Even if the regulation do not apply directly, company may be required by their client and partner company, such as the European American company, to comply with the regulation. As I showed in this slide, European and the US human rights due diligence regulation mandates company, European or American company, to comply the regulation through supply chain. As a result, European and the US business require its supplier and partner. This those supplier and partner include the Asian business, Japanese and Asian business, to comply the regulation. In the end, Asian business are also required to to some extent to address the human rights through their supply chain. And then, but like I also understand this is why like now Japanese business and also Japanese government has started to address human rights due diligence, address access to remedy. But I can also see the limit of this kind of supply chain effect. Asian companies have been caught in the dilemma between increasing human rights expectation and reality in Asia. Especially I can see the risk that human rights due diligence may be reduced to a formality because the human rights concept has not been fully embedded into the society. And also, as a business lawyer, I also often support the Japanese and Asian business. And then very often the business tends to focus on managing on their own business risk rather than the stakeholder human rights risk, which is required by the human rights due diligence. And then also like there is a risk that access remedy for the victim of human rights abuse may be left behind. Yeah, this is like, so there is some limit, but still like, I would say, kind of still there is a limit and the business and human rights dispute, some dispute has been left behind and then, but still like, but I would say if like we organize a kind of establish JSA, this kind of platform, grievance platform, like for example, like 2 or 3 years ago, probably no Japanese company would have joined the platform. But the situation has changed. I mean, Sakon also explained like many companies also find out there is some issue about access to remedy, and also they also found out state-based like grievance mechanism such as OECD national contact point is not working. So in this sense, like they are looking for some alternative or some additional like some way to improve the access to remedy. This is kind of main motivation to join the JSA platform for the Japanese company, some Japanese company to join the JSA platform. And then like, I'm sorry, like I don't want to keep it long, but corporate human rights security is a little bit changing to the little bit topic. So the corporate human rights security index, which is like probably like Professor Sato explained like last week, like in the another session, CHSI evaluated 2 aspects of business law for the human rights in line with the concept of human security, and especially CHSI examines the company's engagement in human rights with a view of the 2 kind of aspects, which means like protection and empowerment. Protection is like really related to the company's activity addressing the negative impact on the human rights under the UNGP, and also empowerment. Empowerment is related to the company's activity, especially related to promoting positive impact on human rights. So, and then the CHSI really emphasized like importance of the evaluating both 2 aspects, negative and positive, and then whether negative and positive impact we examine. Important thing is the consideration of the socially vulnerable people and also use of dialogue with stakeholders to remedy human rights abuse. So the reason why we believe this kind of both kind of highlighting both negative impact and positive impact is that this kind of approach may promote Asian business to proactively address access to remedy while complying with the international norm. Because what I've seen, because through recently the development of the international law, international norm related to the business and human rights, distinction, like I just put like a line between negative impact and the positive impact in this table, but the distinction between negative and positive impact may be dynamic because human rights norms have been evolving. Probably like 5 years ago, the kind of cases like was like just it's not like a responsibility issue. It can be some companies' activity can be considered as promoting positive impact, but now it is considered as addressing a negative impact and clearly considered a responsibility probably some kind of change of norm and development norm. So so in this sense, just putting a very strict line between negative impact and positive impact sometimes make the company to hesitate to addressing the access to remedy. So we try to kind of focusing on the both sides. And then in the end, we Jset's engagement and remedy platform, this has both expectation challenges. So for the expectation, so as Sakon also mentioned, the expectation is we expect Jset can promote dialogue between the business and stakeholders through the platform, and encouraging the business to proactively address access to remedy in line with this corporate similar for the respecting and supporting human rights in line with this human rights security concept, and also establish a Japan Center, Japan lab for the business human rights lawyer and expert, as Professor Surya also mentioned, there should be several lab or center for the access to remedy in each jurisdiction. So hope Jset can be Japan Center, and probably there should be some Korean center and also Malaysian center or also Australian center. Hope we can have network with various center. But still, I also recognize also as responding to the PQ's comment and question, there is a lot of challenge also for the Jset, especially challenging in increasing the level of business commitments for the access to remedy, because Jset is still in the voluntary has a voluntary nature of the platform. So Jset cannot really substitute or replace Jset cannot replace a state-based grievance mechanism such as OECD national contact point, but still it can supplement and it can also promote a business practice and improve the business practice on the access to remedy. But so question is how to really increase the level of the business commitment. In order to increase the level of commitment, business commitment, we need help from really stakeholder and also you joining this session probably. If really business human rights and also expert and also some human rights expert like you address some kind of issue and question, and even help some victim to bring the cases to the Jset. This might really encourage the Japanese company to increase the level of the commitment. So hope we can expand access to remedy network from Japan to Asia. This also have a challenge, but still this event is kindly Professor Yasuno Sato invited us. Is a good opportunity, a good start to expanding our network with you and also to many stakeholders and experts in Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daisuke. Yeah, very clear and excellent presentation. In fact, and actually as Philiku's questions also covered some points, in fact, and the name of this Jset is also includes engagement, not only the remedy. The engagement is more or less kind of a commitment with the companies for the human rights. So not just a negative way, but a positive way for that kind of a channel for the company to learn some sort of a market, for some kind of demand, not just consumers, but behind the consumers, the labelers, and these sort of supply chain and value chain. These kind of voice be something just a company public awareness we also enhanced. So company will also seriously engage how to improve the human rights situations or rule of law for them to work for a sustainable way. And this is also the happiness, the well-being of the people. That is also the final eternal goal for any such company's business purpose. So in such a way, kind of a the game changer for not just a kind of a compensation or some money compensation, but also more other way of the improve the situations better, something like that. So in this sense, very creative one, not just a kind of a complaint bodies, I guess. Anyway, let me listen to the other jurisdiction. Suraj, is he coming? The Nepali? I don't know. Suraj, no, not yet. Probably he's busy, or I don't know the Nepali
Yes,
access. Yes. Yes.
Can I have a
Sure, sure.
Quickly?
Yes, please. Yes, yes. Yes, Sakon. Yes.
Question. Yeah.
Yes, yes, please. Yeah, interactive.
Already, Daisuke gave a wonderful answer, but I personally, I believe I can answer quickly a little bit. Pirikyu-san's question is very critical, especially for me. And but I think that so far, as Ueda-san mentioned, unfortunately, our Japanese society has not mandatory registration regarding the human rights due diligence and as well as grievance mechanism in our society by our Japanese government. So I think that our voluntary address or effort should be enhanced in our society, and I think that this is also the merit because the Jset is comprised of companies that are which are aware of the issue, the human rights related issues themselves, and they are they themselves understand proactive efforts will be needed. So I believe that their proactive efforts can be expected, and the Japanese companies have little experience in stakeholder engagement and need to increase their experience. So the Jset will help the member companies to have more experiences regarding the stakeholder engagement with stakeholders, including human rights defenders, NGOs, and labor unions, especially in Asian Pacific region. And based accordingly, as the number of successful examples increase, other Japanese companies can be expected to imitate those successful cases. As you know, our Japanese society has some kind of the imitating attitude. I mean to say that the Japanese companies have a strong sense of imitating other companies, perhaps due to the influence of our Japanese society. So I think that the Jset will have more opportunities for companies, especially the Japanese companies, to have the stakeholder engagement opportunities with stakeholders, including rights holders and civil society organizations in the region.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe some more deep, profound analysis or negotiation discussion should be done later on. Now we have one more important speakers, Gayatri. Thank you very much. Keep you wait. But of course, not least, there's a very Gayatri is now I think Kuala Lumpur or Bangkok. I don't know this.
Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, Nexus, very famous lady who actually taking initiative for this topic. Even she was invited to Japan, Tokyo, and made a nice presentation and with Unilever in some time ago. So always taking a leadership. Nexus, of course, as you know, the global data company is legal and news, all kind of. Last week, she made an interesting presentation regarding her sort of eyewitness project. That is a very, very interesting. So now, Gayatri, please make a presentation or with comments if you like, just for your point of view, special access justice. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor. I just wanted to bring everybody back to Professor Surya's comments earlier in his video. He talked about power imbalances, and the power imbalance is driven by lack of resources and lack of information. So in today's session, I'd like to tackle that and address that. As Professor Sato has talked about, LexisNexis actually deals with legal information, but our customers are usually lawyers and legal professionals. So we don't have to worry about making law and legal content simplified. We usually just publish the law and then our lawyers can understand it, right? But I think the key here is that law is very, very intimidating sometimes. And the way legislation is drafted can be very, very confusing to non-legal people. And it cannot be the case that every person has to go to a lawyer to get a translated version of what their rights are or what their remedies are as well, because that takes a long time and it's very prohibitive. So from a LexisNexis point of view and from more businesses point of view, I think it's important for us to make laws in more digestible and consumable format. An example would be, let's say you have native rights and land acquisition matters that is very prevalent in many parts of Southeast Asia, for example, Borneo, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. So you have plantation companies, big companies coming in, they acquire the land from the government, but then you have people living in these places, forests, jungles, villages, etc. So what are their remedies? They don't know. And how do we educate them and give them the knowledge and power about where to go and get help as well? I think that's really important. Before I share my slides, I just want to tell you a few examples where we have worked together with experts, our customers like lawyers, judges, legal professors, law professors like Professor Sato, to create plain language, simplified version of the law. Know your rights when you're arrested, know your rights when you consume something and it makes you sick. Do you have a consumer tribunal? Do you sue, etc. as well? So make it very, very plain and simple. So we have gone through with my team many projects where it's related to domestic violence or related to consumer protection or native rights as well. And I think a lot of businesses, because we work in compliance, you are actually able to translate that and make information simple to your customers and your consumers as well. And businesses can play a more active role in that. Having said that, now I'm just going to give you one example of accessible legal remedy. Let me just share my screen. Can you enable me, Nana? Because it says I'm disabled from sharing the screen. Okay, cool. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want to talk about this for a little bit. So Sabah is a state in Borneo. It's a Malaysian state in Borneo. And there are issues related to the indigenous tribe over there. So the challenges is statelessness because they live in such rural areas, right? There are no roads. Sometimes it's just accessible by walking through the jungle, or you have to take a boat ride to the particular village. So they don't have the knowledge that they should register their marriage, they should register the birth of their children. So their children become stateless. They don't have the knowledge to that. Their children do not have access to education or have access to healthcare. That perpetuates a problem as well. You don't have knowledge, you can't read, you will never be able to protect yourself as well. And then there are also a lot of abuses related to land ownership, registration of land disputes, mass land acquisition, and the impact on the indigenous community as well. And of course, there's native rights abuse, especially impacting their way of life as well. So the first thing that we were asked to do, invited by the Sabah courts in Malaysia, was to join their mobile court expeditions. So this is a very interesting project. If the people, they need to travel 24 hours of 12 hours to go to the courts in the little towns and cities. If they cannot do that, then the courts will go to them. So this is an initiative where I'll give you one example that LexisNexis has been joining them since 2018. This is one example of one of the villages that we went to. You can see that from the airport, Kota Kinabalu Airport, to this village called Sapulut is a 5-hour ride using 4-wheel drives because there's no paved road. It's just gravel road. After this 5-hour drive, you have 2-hour boat ride. So you still have to take another boat ride to get to the village. And what happens is the court sends news to the village chiefs 1 month or 2 months in advance. They give them a date and tell them we are coming on this date to set up the mobile courts. So everyone knows that on this day, they will get to be in court and seek legal redress. And we'd be able to get access to pro bono legal services as well as be in the courts as well. So for a month or so, everybody is getting ready to get to the mobile court. So we went there, we arrived there after a long travel, and then we set up tents in the villages. If you see the largest tent there is the LexisNexis tent because we had no idea what we were doing. And then we just bought a tent. But you can see that in that village, there's no place for us to stay. There are no roads. There's only the river. And all of us, judges, magistrates, Sabah Law Society lawyers, LexisNexis, all of us together set up tents. We stay there. We have a village town hall. We address issues, statelessness, issues on land rights, disputes, etc. And then we also visit the native court, but we also set up courts. So in effect, it doesn't need to look so formal. You don't have to wear the suit as well. You just need to have courts. So each table here is a court. There is a magistrate, there's a clerk, court clerk, there's a court officer, as well as an interpreter if there's needed, because there are many indigenous languages that we sometimes don't understand. So they come, they settle it. Sometimes if you need statutory declarations, you need legal documentation. The Law Society lawyers are there doing work pro bono. There is no power here, no running water here. So everybody comes and uses their pen and paper to write documentation down as well. And it is in effect a court. There are several court expeditions going on per year in Sabah. They bring the Ministry of Health for healthcare. They also bring the National Registration Department, sometimes the land office as well, to address these issues. Many times in these town halls, you can see that there is this village and then it is surrounded by plantation, which means the plantations have acquired all the land. They've built palm oil everywhere, and then it's left this tiny little village there, and they are supposed to survive on their own, which is wrong, right? So because it is so prohibitive for them to travel all the way to the city, they don't even know they have the rights to do it. We are able to hold businesses accountable in these mobile courts as well. So I just wanted to say that sometimes with a little bit of creativity and a lot of heart, you can get together and actually go down to the basics and provide legal remedies this way as well. We have been going since 2018. My team and I go every year. We didn't go last year. My team and I go every year. And our goal is to create more consumable content to teach the villagers about the importance of knowing their rights as well. One example, for example, is once they understood what was the value of negotiating for price, they could go to the towns and sell their fish or their vegetables at a higher price. This is just knowledge. They did not know that they could do it. They were just cheated by people who knew better as well. So there's a lot of aspects here. I just wanted to share one example of what is ongoing right now in Sabah. I have put a link here if you want to see more, like a video, more information about the mobile court visit, the latest one this year that we went to in May. Thank you very much.
Wow, excellent. Wow, excellent. Wow, why don't you take me this year?
Yes.
No. Yeah, when
Yes.
is it? When
I'm not sure. Usually they give us 1 month notice once they've organized the timing, because it's difficult to organize. And I will let you know
tell
as soon
me.
as I
I
have.
also participate a volunteer pro bono.
Great.
Excellent.
Great.
Yeah, mobile court. Yeah, not circuit court, mobile court.
Yes.
It's great. Wow. This very surprising case study, especially for Japanese people for such remote areas. We cannot imagine. I don't know how about any other panelist or any sort of audience, probably. Yeah, very diverse societies. In fact, traditional customary law and so-called their own justice system should be also respected, and they are mostly vulnerable, sacrificed because of the power. So how you just respect their rights. This is also another important point we sometimes forgotten. So the Gayatri just reminded us for this. Thank you very much. And then now we open the question and answer discussions. And anything you want to first, panelist or any Ueda-san or anyone who want to respond to any questions or any sort of discussions, just raise your hand or just speak out. And unless you don't have that, I open to the other other than. Yes, please, Ueda-san. Yes, please.
Thank you, Sato Sensei. I just would like to quickly respond to the first straightforward first question from Pirikyu. I really like his straightforward question. So there's two things that I would like to say. First of all, Pirikyu mentioned that there are other mechanisms which doesn't really work. So why don't we examine that first? And my quick response would be that there would be not so many mechanisms, especially when it comes to non-judicial grievance mechanisms in Japan. There's one that we have is NCP, which we believe that it's not that effective. But we don't have like a national human rights institution. There's no mandatory human rights due diligence law. Nothing really. So Jset itself is actually a quite new project in Japan. And that's my initial reaction. And the second one is similar to what Sako-san just said. Jset is initiated by the business enterprises, which has both merits and demerits. The merit is that it kind of gains Jset financial sustainability. Before we start this project, Sako-san actually did some research on other similar organizations. And one of the issues that all of them have is financial sustainability. And Jset, on the other hand, since it's initiated by quite big Japanese companies, it can be financially sustainable. And the second merit is that because it is, again, initiated by companies themselves, we can expect that they comply with recommendations made by Jset. NCP, on the other hand, is established in the government located in MOFA. And that's probably why it doesn't have power over companies in terms of compliance. Okay, yeah, and that's my quick response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ueda-san. So Phil-Q, do you have any respond to their reply? Any further comments or from your point? All right.
I think we should give more time to the floor. I mean, the participants.
Okay. So anyone who want to speak out, please just raise your hand or speak and any chatting. I have one chat, just Pabina for the web scale, and then how government can support business and human rights. Business industry is important as well as human rights development of the country. Yes, I think so. First of all, I think National Action Plan we also developed in each country. I think Japan actually is published 2 years ago, almost. And Thailand also published 1 year before that. And I think Korea is also a national action plan for, and Phil-Q, your government for, and some other Asian countries probably. I hear Vietnam also now making so on. So each government consider their own sort of a situation, then how to promote this business human rights. Of course, this is a political agenda. The cross-border trading, especially the supply chain, is always important for any country in this global world. The market is also very important, crucial. Sometimes some companies are bigger or more powerful than in government. That is also the reality of the now contemporary world. That is why the government is not just a kind of a criticized as a human rights abuse, but also company itself also very responsible, but it's not possible to punish or get the compensation from the companies, which actually more powerful than government sometimes, or even multinational companies. It's not so easy to get because they are always run away from the border. Just the nation-state system has a limitation of the justice system. So in this gap, this business and human rights is now trying to fill in. Even this is a soft law, it's not binding, but binding or not binding is not so crucial in the case of the global world, because anyway, the enforcement is limited if the problem is cross-border. So this depends on the consumers and the investors who are actually directly related with the companies. And also this kind of a supply chain is also very much matter for this market sustainability. So no comments or some. I have now more than 70 participants. Unfortunately, we don't have any from Nepal this time. Probably Saroj retired, or I don't know. He was very active last week in the Vientiane, and I don't know the case of Nepal, but Pavina, you want to say something?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you,
Yes,
and
please.
thank you for organizing this session. I would say last week for the Asia Pro Bono is really limited with time. With that said, I would say again, it's very interesting, and especially in Laos, we 2 years we're trying to work with our partner with White and Case to develop a series of business right and business and human rights and ethics for the throughout the country, 6 law schools in Laos to explore and train, have the students and teachers understand more what is business and in human rights. And I think it's very important because again, it's very new to Laos and also with the governments. That's why I asked, is there any way or how can, especially I think with sustainability, we need to be involving governments in some ways to really push the businessman or the whatever the business is for. And also recently, my colleague who working in land and forestry area, they have this training related to responsibilities on agriculture's investments for the CSOs and also some of governments, especially the MONRE, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and to explore and see, first with the different CSO partners who will be implementing the projects. And it seems like the test, the TOT, the pilot, many have no ideas, and this is not in a bad way. Again, it's like I said, it's very new, and the governments, some of the government's officials, they know, however, they're still limited. And in terms of the challenges with the top, where the national or provincial doesn't know, and how can the villagers or the people itself understand. So it's still challenges with that said. So I think the lesson learned from from Malaysia, from the projects there is very helpful to understand. But again, we try to also as supporting, having the student to understand more. And I would like to hear more about your perspective in the legal institute in the different country, like you, Yasu, or how can you engage law students? And because when they graduate, they have this background, this mindset of business law and human rights to really driven this challenge forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pavina. In fact, I'm not teaching in a law school, but a human security program is not only law, but economics and anthropologist anyway for the global issues we are tackling on. But maybe law schools also quite sort of concern about this one. So, Philip, do you want to say?
Yeah. When we talk about business and human rights, sometimes the discussion is so confusing because it's not something very new. I mean, it's basically talking about the law and institution we have already. So, for example, if there is some instance, some case, for example, I mean, the Laos, a dam collapse in Laos. The first thing I did was looking at the laws in Laos on water supply, on construction, on environmental protection. And I realized that there are provisions of the concerning responsibilities of the government, even the responsibilities of the companies involved. But I realized that those provisions are not that really implemented in reality. And that's the point we should start from. That's the primary kind of concerns we should have when we talk about business and human rights. And so it's basically primarily an issue of rule of law. And then if there is some issue of law governance, and then there is some issue of cross-border issues, we can talk about some guidelines and other issues. And if there's some issues that haven't been covered by the local laws, we can discuss about it. But it's the local laws and institution. It must be the starting point and the starting point of discussion and implementation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Your explanation. Yes, especially the lawyers also are working for this kind of institution, anyway, judicial systems or any ADR. But not so accessible by the vulnerable peoples anyway. So the resource is limited, especially the court is far away. In fact, in the case of the Malaysia's Sabah or any other places, such a place is really not available lawyers or systems, but also even the available, sometimes it's not working. Most of cases in developing countries because the power imbalance. That is a reality. So how we lawyers also work, business lawyers, also the human rights lawyers, especially the NGOs, they are all their own positions. So the kind of a collaboration that is also networking. That is why, and also pro bono is also key functions. Of course, lawyers also have a duty for the fairness and justice, not only just kind of protecting their clients. If the clients are responsible with human rights, the lawyers is also responsible for this kind of a remedy to mediate or sort of a kind of education for that. And I think Japanese companies also concerned about it. And I interviewed with the Jetro or Hanoi, Bangkok office. Also, many companies in the Bangkok is also should have known this concept, but they don't know how to do that, human rights due diligence, because they don't know how information sort of contact. So companies self no access the information of the realities of the peoples. So such a gap, both sides. I mean, so this gap should be filled in. The local lawyers and also international lawyers work together for that. So in this sense, kind of a Jset's such a project be also one of such I think the model for that. I don't know if it's successful or not. Maybe we will just try to do that. Anything or any Daisuke-san or any?
Yes. So
yes, please.
Can I little bit like address some answer the question, especially legal education, the business and human rights? Thank you very much for the
muted. Please demute.
Sorry, thank you very much for kind of for the interesting question, especially the legal education on the business and human rights, and then I'm also. It's very challenging question also within Japan. Just let me talk about the case in Japan also. I'm also teaching some class of the business and human rights in the law faculty, but the undergraduate level. And anyway, it's very few. I mean, kind of there are very few classes on the business and human rights and within Japan, and especially there is a kind of the rare opportunity to teach about especially the non-judicial kind of grievance mechanism, or especially highlighted by the business human rights for the law students. So this is a kind of little issue. So this is why I'm belonging to Japan Federation of Association, and we recently organized a summer school for the law student and legal researcher on the business and human rights. And also recently, I also joined some conference organized by the International Society, Japanese Society of International Law. And recently, many law professors and also law students have started to get interested in more about the business and human rights. But still, once we start about business and human rights, we start from a guiding principle, human rights due diligence, and then it's very little bit difficult to get to the access to remedy. It's a third pillar. But probably as Pirikyu also suggested, a good approach is first we can talk about kind of judicial mechanism and what is the limit of judicial mechanism, and then in order to overcome this kind of challenge, probably kind of how business human rights kind of the instrument or non-judicial grievance mechanism can be effective. This is also a good approach. I also found I'm interested to hear about kind of Pirukyu's answers as well. Anyway, so kind of one of the solutions I feel is that there should be many as Professor Surya also suggested, there should be more and more access to remedy research center or lab or with a university or some more in any organization, and then teaching to the many, not only students, also many other company people or government people, and at least we can communicate. So this is what we want to do through the JSA as well. But so just kind of let me and let me finish for this time, just talk about the Japanese case. Thank you.
Thank you. Haruki, sorry, just mistyped it. You are the, I think, youngest lawyer, right? You just became a lawyer, and you also participated in the Asian Pro Bono conference. And then, what is your view from the new generation of the lawyers? You also involved in the kind of business lawyers pro bono network. So how this kind of business human rights be considered, and young generation, what is your view? Can you just share your view if you like?
Thank you, Mr. Sato. And I am Haruki Matsui, and I'm a first lawyer in Japan. And when I was a university student, I graduated from the university 2 years ago. But when I was a student, I was involved in CHSI project presented by Mr. Takahashi Daisuke sensei. And yeah, and when I was involved in the project, it was a little difficult to catch up the discussion among practitioners like Mr. Sato and Mr. Takahashi. But yeah, I think it became a good opportunity, and through that involvement, I got interested in this area, business and human rights, and now I am dealing with some cases about this area. But yeah, when I joined the law firm, some lawyers knew that I was involved in CHSI project, and I was able to be involved in the cases in the law firm. So I think involving in real discussion and to get some students involved in real discussions between practitioners. So I think this is very, very good opportunity for students. So that kind of measure are, I think the number of that kind of measures is increased. That is a good case for Japan and the society. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So, yeah, I think the subject probably we should also take for the kind of a curriculum of the law school or something like that. Even the young lawyers training, also even the old lawyers, aged one like me, also have to also follow up the learning. So in this learning, I think the most important thing is the participation from the vulnerable peoples. Also the, Kiriki also suggested last week also participation of important for the any kind of rule making, in fact. And then case studies important. Yeah, not just kind of theoretical things now. It's more, we should collect as much as case and learn from the case. And because we are different, not so same, but we also have a common goal, how we can also work together. That is also the quite important point, especially for the business and human rights, if working or not. And this new initiative for the mechanism is also one of such, or kind of evaluation system is one of such. Maybe Philq, I would like to visit you in Seoul in the near future to discuss more about possible Korean Japanese some kind of a consortium or kind of a dialogue, or because we are neighbor. We have of course some historical or political issues among us, but this is not only us. It's all the country, all the region has similar things, and we are also working as a partner to get over these things. We should learn from the lessons. So lessons learned. This is important for especially legal studies, I think. So diversities and case studies. So in this sense, also, yeah, I would like to go to see the Gayatri again for the Kuala Lumpur. I love to visit such a village, remote areas. So, sort of, yeah, unfortunately, the Suraj is missing today, but I will just send an email to him too. Nepal is also close to Japan now because we have many Nepali workers, in fact. I'm not involved in any specific case, but I hear one of the media is Reuters, I think. Reuters in Japan just asked me of my comments. Is the case of the Nepali laborers who injured in Japan. He actually came to Japan, probably kind of a special MOU based or kind of technical training or something like that, just a complement of the Japanese labor market, manual laborers, something like that. And so at that time he was illegal already, overstayed or something like that. And then he just applied for refugee status. Refugee status, once you apply refugee status, after 6 months after application, no decision is made, you are automatically permitted work to stay until you get a decision from Ministry of Justice. This system was abused, something like that. Under such circumstances, he injured the hand in the companies, kind of a Subaru, the automobile companies. But he didn't claim any insurance, something like that, or maybe got a medication, but just he didn't. because he was hesitated if he was a claim that maybe his friends or other Nepali people will be also targeted by the authorities or the illegal stay, something like that. Kind of such a legal point of view. It's very vulnerable because the immigration matter, they cannot stay in Japan, but economically, Japan need these kind of laborers. So sometimes this kind of a very underground sort of, this also used by such companies, the big companies, retained and something like that. So this is a kind of a scandal, of course. But the reality is a reality, and this is not just a single case. Probably the tip of the iceberg. I think these sort of things are the same in maybe Korea. Probably sort of we have also a gap of the labor market. Fikyu, you want to say something?
Yeah, if I may, I want to make a kind of a last comment with my one of my slides.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
So actually, I visited the Atapu area in Laos last week, just before the Asia Problem Conference, because there was, as you all know, there was a dam collapse 4 years ago, and that dam was built by a Korean company. So we are monitoring the situation in that area. What are the remedies are given, and what's the situation right now? And we interviewed a number of villagers, and they are saying, well, I mean, many things have happened, and there was some development in compensation and, building of houses. But we asked some questions like, did you overcome the deaths of your friends and family members? And they couldn't continue the dialogue. And we asked about the psychological or mental health support, and they said there was none. And one of the head of village was telling us that for last 4 years, this was the first time that they had a real dialogue about the real situation of their suffering. And we were kind of, the head of village and the members, we went there, we were like almost crying together. So things will change. I mean, there are some reasons, I don't know why, but I mean, there are reasons that they cannot file some, cases, whether it's not judicial or non-judicial, to companies or the government, but things will change. And this slide, I mean, there are two pictures. One is a student activist 32 years ago, helpless, powerless, chased by a police. And there is a lawyer 5 years ago, convening a meeting of lawyers and pushing the thousands of lawyers to sign up for the impeachment of the president. Things will change. And if we work together, I think we can, really bring about change in many countries, in many societies, and in many communities. Thank you.
Good. Is this a student's photo? Is this a young PDQ? It's not you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's you. Wow. Good, handsome guy. Huh? Still now. All right. So final comment, please. Anyone? Anyone who just 1 minute each? Yeah. About Daisuke-san?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. And then Jset, like kind of the Sakon also explained, like Jset is just launched, but it's a platform, and then the platform is not only for the company, but also we expect like many kind of stakeholder and also pro bono lawyer, especially supporting the stakeholder, can join and use the platform and grievance mechanism so that like we can really facilitate kinds of access to remedy and also engagement. So, and in addition, like today's discussion, also education or training among the also expert, like sharing the knowledge, like among the expert and also business and stakeholder, very important. So hope like we can really continue to really like kind of have a discussion. And if you have any question or any like suggestion, like please like feel free to access contact us, like, and then we are really happy to really talk with you and then collaborate with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's also the Gayatri. You are the expert with data companies. Why don't you kind of have investing this kind of JSA for for data is important for any sort of justice, for maybe kind of platform. You are a professional, so please, your final closing remark. Yeah.
Yeah, happy to have follow-up conversations with Takahashi-san and fellow panel members here as well. I think this is important. Like I said, right now we talk about the business and human rights transgressions by companies. We should really aim for companies doing good instead of stopping companies from doing bad. So the more people work together to do that, the better it is for all of us.
Yeah. So now Nexus representative Tokyo is still Koyashi-san? Well, I don't know.
Yes, I'll connect you with those people. Yeah, I'll connect you with everyone as well. No problem.
Yeah. Please remind. All right. So about Sakon-san, Kuramoto-san, also Ueda-san, any final closing remark?
Yeah, as Daisuke mentioned, well, we are happy to collaborate with other stakeholders, including the participants, especially participants in this seminar. Yeah, so I personally look forward to working with all of you. Thank you very much.
Yes, we should also create some kind of international relational sort of functions about this JSA to always open to the. All right, Ueda-san, please.
Right.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. My final comment is quite the same. Again, the collaboration, I think, is very important, and collaboration with actually the presentation by Gayatri-san is quite impressive to me as well. And I also received many ideas and proposals from different experts and so organizations from that forum in Thailand as well. So yes, let's continue talking, and we hope that we can actually make change in the near future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the colleagues and the friends, everyone, the audiences. Well, just second round, maybe third round will be sometime in the near future, I hope. Next venue conference of Asian Pro Bono Conference, Manila, I think so. But it takes 1 year probably before that. Maybe we should have some kind of another session probably, online or in person. Yeah, I really want to see you in person again in the Seoul and Kuala Lumpur or Kathmandu or any Thailand, of course. Yeah, Vientiane, Bangkok, Chiang Mai. Well, and thank you very much, everyone, for the participation and very constructive discussions. We will develop more network collective collaboration. Thank you very much. See you then. Thank you. Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.